Never mind. It's okay. Shabbat Shalom. Is it clear? Can everybody see okay? Let me know in the chat if you guys can see me, if you guys can hear me. Shabbat Shalom. Okay, cool. All right, let's get this thing started. Let's get this party started by giving praises to God. Let's rise. Come over here. Come up here. Giving all honor and praise to the Most High God, who sitteth in the seat of judgment, whose throne is inestimable, the Lord of lords, God of gods, King of kings, the high and lofty one, who inhabiteth eternity, who has no counselor and none to consort with him. He who has reigned from the beginning, before any creature was formed, or any green shoot shot forth, before the foundations of the earth were laid, before the legions of angels first assembled. Yea, he who possessed wisdom ere the waters were parted asunder, or the winds of the firmament ever blew. He alone, the dreaded one, did reign, still reigns, and shall reign over all things forever. From everlasting to everlasting, El Shaddai, the Almighty God, the creator of all life, who made man in his own image, to whom he gave a heart of flesh, and has imparted him with the 5 operations of Elohim: eyes to see, ears to hear, smell, and taste, that he might enjoy the pleasures of eating and drinking, whereby he may obtain strength and healing from the foods and medicines of the earth that he made for him. And feeling also, both to the touch and in the inward parts, to know what was in his heart, whether he would serve Ha Elohim, his maker, or no. And besides these, he endowed him with good sense and reason and speech to interpret the things that are seen and heard, that he might comprehend and articulate his thoughts, becoming fully aware, possessing the power to make sound decisions. And in his abounding loving kindness, he granted him understanding, yea, and knowledge also, that he might have withal to pursue the things that are pleasing to the Lord and depart from evil. He to whom all honor, worship, and praise is due, the omnipotent God, God of the Hebrews, who made the sea and the dry land, the God of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, the God of Israel, the true and living God, the author of love, time, life, and sound, who spake and it was created, for all things are done at the words of his mouth, who breathed life, the one spirit, into our first father Adam, from whom we all are come to the world, which he made for the serving, nurturing, and nourishment of man, his most precious creation, to whom he gave his most righteous law, for righteousness belongeth to him alone, who is just in all things, who keep his covenant and mercy with them that love him and keep his commandments to 1,000 generations, even to the seed of his beloved friend Abraham, even to us, the children of Israel, Ben Isaac and Maccabim, sons of the ancient Maccabees. For he is our God, the ancient of days, for before the day was, is he, the God of the spirits of all flesh, El Quanah, the jealous God, El Rahum, the merciful God, El Rapha, the God of healing, the one and only true healer, Hagadol, the great, Hagibor, the mighty, Wehanorah, and the terrible, Elohim Zebaot, the Lord of hosts is his name. He is the King of glory. Blessed be the glorious name of his kingdom forever and ever. For he is good, for his mercy endureth forever. Giving due respect to the chief men, princes, dignitaries, mothers in Israel, officers, brothers and sisters, I stand before you this day, Prince Zachariah, a title bestowed upon me by the order of Chiefs Eleazar ben Lewi, ben Dodo, aka Matitya, father of the house of the Maccabees, my teacher and leader, in whose honor I speak and continue the legacy of his name, works, and teachings, in the name of our God, and the holy law given us at the mouth of his prophet Moshe, reinstituted by and in accordance with the protocol set forth by Nasi Yaakov, head knock of all the Hebrews, teacher, leader, and founder of Ben Isaacin, the first Hebrew Israelite congregation in the United States of America, whither we have been exiled because of our sins and the sins of our fathers, whom our God commissioned to bring his people together, to the intent that he might open our eyes and give us ears to hear and a heart to perceive, as it is at this day, so that we may keep his commandments, return to him, and repair the breach. I bid you in the ancient tongue of our fathers. Shabbat shalom lechem. Please remain standing as we recite the Constitution of Israel in Hebrew from Exodus 20. וידבר אלוהים את קהל הדברים האלה לאמור אנוכי אל שדי אלוהיך אשר הוצאתיך מארץ מצרים מבית עבדים לא יהיה לך אלוהים אחרים על פניי לא תעשה לך פסל וקלתמונה אשר בשמיים ממעל ואשר בארץ מתחת ואשר במים מתחת לארץ לא תשתחווה להם ולא תעבדם כי אנוכי אל שדי אלוהיך אל כהנה בוחר ההון אבות על בנים על שילשים ועל ריבעים לשונאי ועושה חסד לאלפים לאוהביי ולשומרי מצוותיי לא תישא את שם אל שדי אלוהיך לשווא כי לא ינקה אל שדי את אשר יישא את שמו לשווא זכור את יום השבת לקודשו ששת ימים תעבוד ועשית כל מלאכתך ויום השביעי שבת לאל שדי אלוהיך לא תעשה כל מלאכה אתה ובנך וביתך עבדך ואמתך ובהמתך וגרך אשר בשעריך כי ששת ימים עשה אל שדי את השמיים ואת הארץ את הים ואת כל אשר בם וינק ביום השביעי על כן ברק אל שדי את יום השבת ויקדשהו כבד את אביך ואת אמך למען יאריכון ימיך על האדמה אשר אל שדי אלוהיך נותן לך לא תרצח לא תנאף לא תגנוב לא תענה ברעך עד שקר לא תחמוד בית רעך לא תחמוד אשת רעך ועבדו ואמתו ושורו וחמורו וכל אשר לרעך. Shavu, you may be seated. And all the people perceived the thunderings and the lightnings and the voice of the horn and the mountain smoking. And when the people saw it, they removed and stood afar off. And they said unto Moses, speak thou with us, and we will hear. But let not God speak with us, lest we die. And Moses said unto the people, fear not, for God has come to prove you, and that his fear may be before your faces, that ye transgress not. And the people stood afar off, but Moses drew near unto the thick darkness where God was. And the Lord said unto Moses, thus thou shalt say unto the children of Israel, ye have seen that I have talked to you from heaven. You shall not make with me gods of silver, neither shall you make unto you gods of gold. An altar of earth thou shalt make unto me, and shalt sacrifice thereon thy burnt offerings and thy peace offerings, thy sheep and thine oxen. In all places where I record my name, I will come unto thee, and I will bless thee. And if thou wilt make me an altar of stone, thou shalt not build it of hewn stones. For if thou lift up thy tool upon it, thou hast polluted it. Neither shalt thou go up by steps unto mine altar, that thy nakedness be not discovered thereon. Baruch Shemo. All right, today we're gonna have some fun here. Learning, giving praises to our God, and expounding on the magnificent power of our God. And also that should inspire us to want to serve him, and with all our soul, with all our heart, with all our soul, with all our might, because of the benefits that come with it. And I said this before, all of the laws are to benefit ourselves. None of the laws that God commanded us to keep benefit him. And that's how you know when somebody loves you, because even though we get mad or bent out of shape or our feelings hurt when we get corrected, sometimes those emotions cause us to look at the rebuker or the corrector or the teacher or the one that's spitting the message from the book, which is still the words of God, mind us, right? Oftentimes we look at that one as an enemy, or use the excuse for a crutch that they are against us and they hate us. And this is why they're being mean to us by saying the things that they're saying and hurting our feelings. We don't call it correction. We say they're trying to hurt at us. They're trying to get at us. He's picking on me. And that's not the case. Never is it the case. I don't care if the person who's administering the rebuke actually despises you. That is God who sent the rebuke. And so we need to recognize that these words, regardless of how they are delivered or whose mouth they come out of, is meant to make us better. And so on both sides, we should be conscious and regarding how we deliver them, and then also from the other end, how we receive them, right? So we don't misrepresent our God, right? Because if we say we serve God, then when I hear his words, I shouldn't be mad at the messenger. And at the same time, if I serve God and I am the messenger, I should deliver his words with love and in impact. And sometimes love may not look like, what the receiver is expecting. And that's when we have to be truthful and honest with ourselves to say, well, why am I rebuking? Why am I giving this message? Is there good intentions behind it? Is it because I have love for my brother, right? Or my neighbor, right? And that's what this should be about. This is what God is teaching us, right? And so when we hear these words, we should automatically apply them to ourselves, whether we know it's for someone else or it's for us, or I'm not violating this particular thing. And instead of taking it personal to the point where we repel it, we should leave ourselves open to be corrected and assume that it's all for the purpose to heal me, because we are sick. We are sick with sin, right? So that is the mindset that we should have when we're listening to teachings. Wink at ignorance. Don't follow up, negative, whatever is brought to us negatively. Don't follow that up, but instead do what we're supposed to do, each individual, and getting ourselves right with God. So, yeah, I brought that up so that these teachings could always be an inspiration, right? And we're gonna do a little something different today, because as I was reading this week, I was just inspired by the things that I was reading and the power of God, and how the elements and God's creation is changed and manipulated by God, by wisdom, for the purpose of benefiting his chosen people, right? And this is why the title of this particular lesson is Creation Serves Its Creator for the benefit of his chosen, because things change. Unexplainable things happen that people call miracles for the benefit of his people at God's will. And that alone is inspiring, because there's nothing that we should be able to make an excuse for or to say, I can't do it. Because if God is with you, he can literally manipulate the world to bend to your will, as long as your will is not in defiance of his divine order. So keeping that in mind, we serve the God of the heaven, who created the heavens and the earth, who has all things in his control, in his power, and he will give that power and that control to those who he sees fit, should their intentions and their ways and their doings and their thoughts and their speech be in alignment with his heart. And we saw examples of that, like when Joshua said, sun, stand thou still on Mount Gibeah, and thou moon upon the valley of Ajalon, right? And the sun and moon hearkened to the voice of a man, the only time in history when that happened, right? So never underestimate the power that comes with serving God. And I listen, you can feed yourself all that you want. I don't want to hear it. Don't tell me about the curses. Don't tell me about, because of our sins, we are far away from God. Any of our fathers could have said that in the time after Moses, because as sin increased, he got further and further away from us. Today, we're in a time where we don't even have God's no longer sending his prophets among us to drop on us warnings for the imminent punishments that are up ahead, right? Because of our sins. And just remember this, that the world is the way it is because of the sins of Israel. So before we start pointing fingers at the nations or blaming other people or making excuses because the curses are upon us, just remember it is the way it is because of our sins. And another thing that we forget, the world is also the way it is because of the loving kindness and the favor and the mercy that God promised to show to them that love him and keep his commandments. So because of Abraham, God spared many nations that came of him. And there are nations that are surviving today simply because of the favor that God showed to Abraham, because he kept his commandments, and to them that follow him to 1,000 generations, right? So the mercy follows his seed, whether they keep his commandments or not. But just know that the punishments or the visiting of the sins will follow through to third, 3, and 4 generations of them that hate him. And so since we are among the generations of the 3 and the 4 of them that hated him after our fathers, then we can expect some of these punishments. But that doesn't mean that God ever withdrew his favor from us, that he placed upon us, and the mercy that he placed upon us because of our father Abraham. We are still the apple of his eye. There's a reason why God said the nation of Israel will not cease as long as there is sun and moon, as long as there is summer and winter. The seed of Israel will not cease from among men, right? Now the name may not cease, right? May cease to exist, but his people will not. And God knows who all of us are by name, right? So with that said, we're going to jump into Leviticus chapter 10. And just check out some of God's awesome power. Just check out how being close to him can be a dangerous thing, but also such a great benefit. And nothing good comes from anything that is easy. Nothing good is easily attained, right? So, of course, being close to God, you're going to be under more pressure, under more scrutiny, under more severe punishments when we err. But the benefits that come along with it far outweighs those dangers and those risks, right? In that path that we walk, just by being God's people, right? So let's start from Leviticus chapter 10, verse 1. Tamshi, you need to sit up.
And Nadab and Abihu, the sons of Aaron, took either of them his censer and put fire therein and put incense therein, and offered strange fire before the Lord, which he commanded them not. And there went out fire from the Lord and devoured them, and they died before the Lord.
Right. So what made the fire strange? I mean, who knows? Did it burn a different color? We don't know. But the fire was not strange because of its color. The fire was strange because they put incense in a concoction or a combination of incense that God did not command. Whether it was the right combination, wrong measurements, or wrong combination altogether, or they just left one out or added one in. We don't know, but it wasn't the exact prescribed order that God gave for incense offering. That's what made the fire strange, right? This is what made it such a great sin, because these are the holy things. And when concerning the holy things, I'm going to make a statement first, but then I'm going to say something else concerning law. Concerning the holy things, we must stick exactly to the prescribed order in order for it not to bring upon us a harsh, severe punishment, right? This is why there is a penalty of death for the profanation of the Sabbath day, because the Shabbat is holy in God's eyes. The Shabbat should be holy in our eyes. And doing our own thing on this day shows God that we don't regard the day as holy. Thinking our own thoughts, speaking our own words, entertaining ourselves with our own pleasures is not upholding the holiness of the day. Mind you, we should all know and have the conscious mind to seek out what work is, so that we don't mistakenly do work on this day, or just discount something as work that is actually work, and say, that ain't nothing, that God's not talking about that. We got to stick to the letter of what every word means, so that we do this thing to the best of our capabilities. It says, as it was your mind to go astray from the Lord your God, so being returned, seek him 10 times more. Somebody that's seeking God 10 times more because you know you messed up is not going to be disregarding and saying, I don't mean that. Oh, come on, it's not that serious. That's not counted. No, you're going to be on your P's and Q's. You're going to be under the principle of, if in doubt, when in doubt, do without. You're going to be making sacrifices for these laws. You're going to make sure you do your research. You're going to make sure you study. So if you're not studying and you're not researching and you're not looking up the definitions of these words and you're not reading the law every day, we ain't returning to God. Simple as that. You returning to something else, whatever you entertain yourself with, but we're not returning to God. So what the second thing I was going to say regarding the holy things is that all the law is holy. It may not be the specific holy things like an offering or the Shabbat day, but performing these laws will make you holy, separated for the use of God. So all of the law should be held in high esteem, in high regard. And none of it should be disregarded or discounted, not taken as something that our life depends on, because it should. It should be looked at as something that our lives depend on. So we see here they offered strange fire. The incense was not the concoction or the prescribed order that God commanded. And therefore fire came out from before the Lord and devoured them. When it says from before the Lord, is because they were offering in the incense altar is inside the temple. So when it says it came from before the Lord, it came from before the Holy of Holies, inside the temple, and burned them, only them. We're gonna see how selective, how picky this fire was. Tom Sheet.
Then Moses said unto Aaron, This is it, that the Lord spake, saying, I will be sanctified in them that come nigh me. And before all the people I will be glorified. And Aaron held his peace.
Right.
And Moses called Mishael and Elzaphan, the sons of Uzziel, the uncle of Aaron, and said unto them, Come near, carry your brethren from before the sanctuary out of the camp.
Okay. And so God said he's going to be sanctifying all them that come nigh him. We don't have priests today. We don't have a priesthood, because when we had it, we thought to take advantage of our God. We thought to sin and then bring a sin offering and then go back and sin again and bring a sin offering and then go back and sin again and bring a sin offering, and made it a pattern to where we could just sin and bring a sin offering before God as if this was our key and our green light and our license to continue sinning. God said, okay, I gave you this not only for us to make an atonement for ourselves, for our sins, so that our sins don't pile up until it destroy us, because that's what happens. You can't see sin. It's a spirit, but we acquire these sins throughout our lives, and they're resting on our shoulders, on our back, on our head. And we carry them everywhere we go. And it's sin that weighs us down. It is the spirit of sin that is upon us because of we bearing the weight of our sins, that we have a hard time getting rid of pride, that we have a hard time to stop lying, that we have a hard time to stop coveting. We have a hard time to stop sinning. We have a hard time to control our lusts. We have a hard time controlling our taste buds. We have a hard time disciplining ourselves when and what to eat. So we need to understand that it is because of sin why we have this problem. And there's a formula in this book that teaches us how to get rid of sin, how to improve before God, how to gain his favor, how to be able to develop a strength and a crust to fight and resist sin. I mean, all of us have experienced it. Most of us have experienced it. And I'm going to tell you how. You're not tempted no more when you smell bacon. You don't go, that smells good. Oh, don't eat it. You can't eat it. It's not good. It's an abomination. It's disgusting to you now. When you smell it, it disgusts you. Whether you was born in this way of life or you came into this way of life as an adult and you stopped eating pork. However it was, you have grown to the point now where you despise it, most of us. If you're new to the channel, then you will get there. And when you get to that point, nothing could tempt you anymore about bacon. Nothing pricks you to say, oh man, I want to have some bacon right now, but I'm going to fight this urge. No, you overcome that already. And it's the same with every single sin. We start by making a sacrifice. We start by forcing ourselves to give up the thing that we love that God hates, so that we could do the thing that is pleasing to God. After a while, in time, your spirit grows a crust and a strength to be able to resist that thing, and to where temptation or sin itself can no longer tempt you in that matter. So we know the formula. We know how to overcome sin. Our problem is we don't believe God enough to force ourselves to forsake and give up the things that we love that he hates. That's what it is. If we're honest with ourselves, we don't believe God. That's what it means. You believe fire will burn you. That's why you don't put your hand in it. If you don't keep God's commandments, it's because we don't believe God. It's no two ways about it. We need to be honest with ourselves. And as long as we're lying to ourselves and making excuses, blaming other people, blaming the curses, we'll never get right with God. We'll never return to God. You'll never start reading every day. You'll never start studying. You'll never start looking up words to find out how you can bend your spirit to be in alignment with God. Because that's the goal. That's the objective. And if we're in it for something else, you're in it for the wrong reasons. Okay, so Moses called Mishael and Elzaphan, the sons of Uzziel, the uncle of Aaron, and said unto them, draw near, carry your brethren from before the sanctuary out of the camp. So this is their cousins. This is Nadab and Abihu's cousins, right? The sons of Uzziel, the uncle of Aaron. Mishael, Elzaphan is their cousins. He calls their brethren. Notice you won't see that word cousin in the Torah. It's not in there, not even in Leviticus chapters 18 and 20, when it tells who we can and can't lay with, right? So he said, carry your brethren from before the sanctuary out of the camp. Verse 5.
So they went near and carried them in their coats out of the camp, as Moses said. And Moses said unto Aaron and unto Eleazar and unto Ithamar, his sons, uncover not your heads, neither rend.
Okay, hold it right there. And they carried them in their coats out of the camp. Bikutanotam, in their tunics, in their garments. This is how it translates, out of the camp. Now, this tells us that this was strategically done. Don't wrap that around your neck. Strategically done so that they would not get unclean by the dead. So one grabbed him from up here, and the other one grabbed him from the skirts down here. And the garment, the robe, became a stretcher. One holding it near his feet and one holding it at his shoulders. And that's why, so that they didn't touch the body, so they wouldn't get unclean by the dead. Now, here's what that tells us also. If you look back in Exodus chapters 39 and 40, we will see that God commanded for the priest's attire to be made out of linen, right? Now, two things I learned about searching for 100% materials, that 100% linen and 100% cotton turn to ashes. Wool also turns to ashes, but it smells like burnt hair, right? So all three of those will turn to ashes when burned. Now, let's just look at how selective and picky this fire was that came from the Lord to burn up Nadab and Abihu, but did not burn their garments. Or else they wouldn't have been able to carry them out of their garment, within their garments, out of the camp, because the garment would have been turned to ashes, because it's made out of linen, and fire turns linen to ashes. That tells us, that shows us the power of God, that even the elements themselves will give place to his holiness. and regard the holy things of the Lord. The fire itself fears God. That's heavy. Baruch Shemo. So carrying them out of the camp in their coats as to not get unclean, in their robes as to not get unclean, because it says you have to touch the body or a bone or a grave to be unclean by the dead, not their clothes, right? And those clothes were not burnt because they were holy, because all the attire of the priest was holy. Let's think about that for a second. The fire understood and feared God to not burn the holy garments. Also, like we read in the Apocrypha when it said the angel gave place, the death angel that was going through the camp during the time of the plague in the wilderness, when the death angel was going through the camp and Aaron stood between the living and the dead with an incense offering. It didn't say it gave place to the incense offering. It said it gave place to his attire, the crown, the holiness of the Lord, to his ephod, to the breastplate, to the ephod, mind you, with the names of 6 tribes on this shoulder, 6 tribes on this shoulder, and the holy robe and the curious girdle, and what it's called in English, but it translates to the girdle of pattern work, right? And so the angel saw the holy garments of the high priest and backed down and would not pass Aaron to continue killing in the plague. It didn't say God stopped the angel. It said Aaron stood in between and the angel saw Aaron's attire and stopped. It wasn't Aaron. It wasn't the offering. It was his clothes. Think about that for a second. This with the law inside. I know you can see it. Yeah, I got it wrapped up in plastic, then foil paper, then super glued inside of there with a padding to cover it so the sweat don't get to it, right? On the bracelet that says the Shema with God's wrong way. With God's name in there. Right? These things are holy. We shouldn't take it lightly. We are supposed to be God's people. These are identity in the spirit to show that you are God's people. These are our identity in the spirit to show that we are God's people. And yes, it's on here also, on the t-shirt also, or the garment. It's all there. And it should be on all of our coverings. And it should be permanently attached or fixed to. You ain't gonna find no pins in my house. This is the way we were taught. Imagine me saying, oh yeah, you know, Chief Elazar is my teacher, man. He's my teacher. But I don't do none of the things that he taught me. Imagine me saying, yeah, you know, God is my God, man. But I don't keep none of his laws. As a matter of fact, I just do them my way. I don't do it the way it's written. And then if you ask me about it, I got 19 million excuses. We got to take this thing serious. We got to get right with our God. It was our mind to go astray. You ain't hear my brother Chief Mikael teaching today? Their sins are our sins. Are we paying attention? Because every week there's jewels coming off the platform for all of us. I ain't talking about, you know, the ones that you like that you already doing. I'm talking about the laws that are being spit, the ways, the principles that are being spit from off the platform that you are not doing yet, that we have not conformed to, that we are stubborning up against. That's what I'm talking about. Because as it was our mind to go astray, so being returned, we should be returning 10 times more. not slowpoke taking our time. No man is promised tomorrow. You want to play them games? I'm not. You know, the older I get, the more I think about leaving something behind. You know, leaving something behind for my children or for another generation to come after me. And after that, and after that, not to remember me, but to remember that I stood for God's laws and that they might be inspired to do the same. That's what these men that we read about, that's what their whole life purpose was, to teach the laws of God, to stand up for the laws of God, to speak the laws of God, to do the laws of God, to perform the laws of God for as an example. And if we're not looking at ourselves, each one of us, not just the teachers, if every one of us is not looking at ourselves like a walking example, representative of God, we don't understand what holiness is. We don't understand what we're supposed to be standing for. We don't understand the whole purpose of why God chose Abraham's children to be a nation of priests, to be a nation, a light to the nations. Not a finger pointer of the nations. Tom Shee.
And Moses said unto Aaron and unto Eleazar and unto Ithamar his sons, uncover not your heads, neither rend your clothes, lest ye die, and lest wrath come upon all the people, but let your brethren, the whole house of Israel, bewail the burning which the Lord hath kindled.
You know, I read that verse. Man, it's crazy how you will read the same chapter. I mean, just think about it. You watch your favorite movie, right? How many times? 10 times, 5 times, 7 times. And every time you will see something in the movie that you didn't see before. You're like, oh, well, he was standing in the doorway. I didn't even see him the whole time. That's how he knew. That's why later on he came back like, It's the same thing with the law. When you read over and over and over and over and over, and you're reading like you're looking for something, you're reading like you lost something and you're trying to find it again, you're going to find some new things. And you're not going to find the thing that you're looking for all the time. Don't go into it like you're looking for a specific thing. That brother violated me. Watch, I'm going to find this chapter where he's wrong and I'm right. No, don't do that. Because you ain't going to find what's for you. Because when the message comes for you, you're going to be in denial and you're going to put it on somebody else. No, see, yep, that's him. That's them. Yep, that's her. You're going to miss the message. We're supposed to be reading the law as if we are returning to him 10 times more. We're supposed to be returning with a simplicity of heart in seeking our God. And with that, you're supposed to be humble enough to know that these words are for me all the time. When I read, when I listen to teachings, they are for me. And that way, when we read the book, the messages won't fly over our head. And God will be able to send wisdom to speak to us, because then he's going to say, finally, one that believes me. And a whole new thing happens where things start to open up your brain and your eyes, and you're able to see things that you couldn't see before because you have an intention to fix you. I have an intention to fix me. You can't fix me. I can't fix you. I can only fix me. You can only fix you. And we could do that if we not just apply these words, because you got to go after it first. You got to seek them out before you can apply them. Right now, you're being delivered. It's being delivered to you on a platter every Shabbat. But what are you doing during the week? Are you seeking out this law? Are you seeking out God through his laws to be able to find out what we could change about ourselves, how we can align ourselves with God? And so he said, let not loose the hair of your heads. Uncover not your heads. That's what it says. Neither rend your clothes, because this was an act of mourning where they would take the turban off, rip their garment, right? Because remember, that tells us that the priest always had his head covered, right? And that you die not. If Aaron mourned, he would have died. Now, we think our lives is hard. His sons just died. The same day 2 of his eldest sons died, God told him, you better not mourn or I'm going to kill you. You talk about controlling your emotions. Huh? Talk about discipline. Talk about regarding God's holiness above your own life, above your own feelings. This is the epitome right here. Aaron was no joke, man. As much as people want to point fingers at Aaron and say, yeah, man, you should have never built the calf, man. You should have never feared the people. You try having 1 million people breathing down your neck, threatening to kill you if you don't build the calf, and see if you don't fold. I'm not going to be the one to say, man, Shu, if I was there, not me, man. No, don't say those things. Shh. You ain't going to know what you would do until you're in it, until it's you, until you wearing the shoes. Until then, don't tell me nothing about what we would have done, what we, not me, and none of that, because you can't even get the laws that you can do with the liberty to do them in the land where we are exiled. We still can't get it right. So don't tell me what we're going to do under the pressure of an entire nation of people. I don't want to hear it. Please. And be not wroth. He said that you die not, and that he, God, be not wroth with all the congregation. If Aaron would have mourned, God will be angry with the entire congregation. The head violate, the entire congregation is going to feel it. The wrath of God. I don't think we as officers, as teachers, everybody want to be the chief, nobody want to be the Indian, what Chief used to say. Do you really want that honor? Do you really want to step up in that position? Because if you do, you can't be pointing fingers at people. Instead, you have to become the shepherd. You have to take on the responsibility that what you do falls on them, and that you are now responsible for your words, your actions, your thoughts, or else the people will suffer also. You think it's a light thing? You think God changed from now to then? You think he changed? Well, they was priests, you know what I'm saying? He was the high priest, man. Yeah, I'm just the chief. I'm just the prince. I'm sorry if you think that way and you don't hold yourself in a higher regard. Chief used to say, if you don't think you a prince, you won't act like one. If you don't think you a chief, you won't act like one. If you don't view yourself as a head and as a leader, you won't carry it like one. That's why brothers go and make shaitan behind the garbage, the dumpster in public. We should be ashamed. It said, of these things shall you be ashamed. The first one was violating the laws of God. We're not ashamed. Because as soon as you bust me, well, what about him? They be doing it too. And this one, and it's all this. It's all this all day. All this all day. It's never talk good about King David, but we don't want to act like him though, huh? We don't want to take the responsibility and the weight that he bore on his shoulders. That's why God loved him as our king. That's why all the kings come out of his line. And in the southern kingdom, where Jerusalem, where God's house was, right? He set a standard. And we trying to uphold that standard today? Because we talk about it, but I don't think we live in it. This is where we got to get harder on ourselves, be more demanding of ourselves. Demand not of another other than thyself. We are our worst own enemy. Pointing fingers, telling everybody else where they going wrong. What about him? You better do this. You got to do that, man. You got to. We're quick to say thou shalt and thou shalt, talking to other people, but we don't talk to ourselves and say thou shalt and thou shalt not. He said, but let your brethren, the whole house of Israel, bewail the burning which the Lord hath kindled. Let the whole congregation mourn. But you, Aaron, in the stead of the high priest, you cannot mourn. That's hard. Tamshi, verse 7.
And ye shall not go out from the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, lest ye die. For the anointing oil of the Lord is upon you. And they did according to the word of Moses.
Right. But you can't go out from the door of the tabernacle of the congregation unless you die. I want to ask some of these guys that claim to be priests, where's the tabernacle? Where's the temple? Because you ain't supposed to leave the grounds. But, I mean, I've heard God call himself a king. You know what I mean? That don't make him the king of something. So you could call yourself whatever you want. That don't make it so, right? Self-proclaimed teachers, self-proclaimed titles, why am I going to let that move me? Am I living up to the title that God gave to me? Because God made me a teacher. When he inspired or moved my teacher to make me a teacher, that was God. I'm just in case we getting this thing twisted and we forget that God does all things. Let us remember that the teachers were appointed by God, not the ones that made themselves, started a YouTube channel and made itself a self-proclaimed teacher, but the ones that were commissioned by God under the commission that God set up, which was Prince Jacob, and then whoever he made a teacher and who he made officers, and then they made officers and teachers. That's the only way it counts. Because I see in the book where a lot of men proclaimed to be prophets, but they were false prophets. I see in the book where a lot of men proclaimed to be kings and usurped authority and killed this one and became king, and it wasn't sanctioned by God. Or they tried to raise up and killed the sons of David, and they never prevailed. Right? Even when they tried to wipe out the sons of the king, and I think Joash was the only one left, right? And he was raised in the temple and then put on the throne at what, 7, 8, right? So we got to look at that. God's hand is in this. So I could say I don't like him all I want. I don't like the way that teacher teach. We end up sounding like Ahab, because he never teach anything good about me. Only evil from the Lord. You gotta check ourselves, man. Because I ain't gotta like the messenger, but I for surely better like the message when it's coming out of this book. If it's quoting the words of the book, if it's paraphrasing the words of the book, if the message is in alignment with the principles that come from the book, then we better make ourselves agree with it. We better rub it in our chest like medicine and drown out extinguish those weak emotions of despising and hatred towards our brethren, because the words have nothing to do with who's speaking it. Only for that individual they do. If you keep in the words that come out of your mouth, God is going to hold you accountable for that. But as far as us listening, us hearing it, it don't matter who's speaking it. Once it's coming, it's the words of God, or it aligns with the principles and the moral code that's coming out of this book. We are going to be bound to it, to adhere to it, whether we like it or not. You shall not go out from the tent of meeting lest you die, for the anointing oil of the Lord is upon you. And they did according to the word of Moses. Tamshi?
And the Lord spake unto Aaron, saying, Do not drink wine nor strong drink, thou nor thy sons with thee, when ye go into the tabernacle of the congregation, lest ye die. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations.
That tells us that for this command to come right after Nadab and Abihu sent up strange fire before the Lord, that tells us that there was drinking involved. And this is why God had to make it a point right after to command Aaron and his sons, saying, don't drink wine or strong drink, thou nor thy sons with thee, when you go into the tabernacle of the tent of meeting, that you die not. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations. Now, we don't have the tent of meeting. We don't have the tabernacle of the congregation. We don't have the temple anymore. But We shouldn't be drinking or under the influence of anything when we come up to speak the words of God on the bima on the Shabbat day. And we shouldn't be doing that anyway, because that's our own pleasures, if that is your pleasure. But the point is to take this seriously as if it is the holy things of the Lord, the teachings. So saying all of that to say this, even attending, even listening at home. When the teacher say he start his introduction and he start giving praises, hey, I tell my wife and kids, stand up. We rise. We rise for the words that are giving praises to God. When Chief Mikael run through the 10 Commandments, we rise. We repeat after him at home. Not because we've taken this as we're congregating at home. I'm not delusional, okay? It's not congregating. We are not attending anywhere by watching online. We are watching so that we can keep the holiness of the Shabbat day and learn how to get our spirits in alignment with God through the words that are being expounded from the book. And so we're going to take it seriously. And when the words of the law are being spoken, we're going to be attentive, and we're going to give respect where respect is due. So if he's praising God, if the teacher is up giving praises in his introduction, we rise. You ain't got to like the teacher, but you better like the words, or else you're against God, not a man. Give respect where respect is due. Give credit where credit is due. And recognize when you hear the word of God and give it up. Tamshi.
And that ye may put difference between holy and unholy, and between unclean and clean.
That we may put difference between the holy and the unholy, the holy and the common or profane, between the unclean and the clean. Today is not about me. Today is not about my preferences. You might hear us as teachers give examples of things that we went through in life to emphasize a point out of the law, or to emphasize a principle of wisdom from the book, an experience that may shed light on the subject to inspire someone else to adhere to what is right, whether it's an example of us following the moral code, or an example of or putting ourselves on blast when we violate it. It's all to inspire the people to serve God, to follow what is right before God. But I ain't gonna make the whole thing about me and what I like. So these laws and these words, I am bound to these same words that I'm spitting. And that's what we got to remember. You don't have to be a teacher. When you start speaking these words to an individual in a conversation, or we're pointing fingers at people because of what they're violating, or we're rebuking someone, don't forget that the same words apply to me. I am bound by these words just as well. Perception deceives its own master. We might think we're right. We might think we are innocent in this matter. There's always another point of view. Sometimes we got to step back and say, you know what? I was wrong too. Even though I might not see it that way, I got to start to look at this. I got to step outside myself and look at this from a different perspective, because we're always wrong too. And when times you were right, you was wrong in something else that was just as bad or worse. Oftentimes, we can't even see ourselves when we're wrong. We're invisible to ourselves when we're wrong. But we're like the shining light to the world when we're right. That's pride, man. That's pride. We got to take it down and humble ourselves. Tamshi.
And that ye may teach.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. And put a difference between the holy and the common, between the unclean and the clean. So it's not only about on the Shabbat day, but in your house during the week. Put a difference between the clean and the unclean. You know, I had to make a separation. These garments right here, we pray in. Do you know that those are, if you have a garment that you only pray in and you don't wear for nothing else but praying, do you know that's a holy garment? I'm not talking about you pray and then you wear it around the house. No. You pray, you take it off, you put it up. And that garment is only for prayer. That's a holy garment. Do you know that? And it should be treated as such. You don't throw unclean stuff on top of it. You don't throw it on the floor. You don't cast it to the side with all the rest of the garments. You treat it differently. And it should be regarded and treated as holy. You don't leave this frontlet laying around anywhere. You don't leave it on the floor. I don't care if you was laying on the floor and you took it off. Don't put it on the floor. And if you don't have one, why not? Why you don't have one? Isn't it law? I don't want to hear you ain't got no money, because I was taught before any of us had money to get a frontlet made. Our teacher made them out of leather. Made one. Before we went and bought leather, he cut up leather of his jacket or his clothes that he had to make the first frontlet that he had. I mean, are we the students of our teacher, Chief Eleazar, or are we someone else? Because none of us should be walking around without this. None of us. Of the house of Chief Eleazar and all those who have submitted themselves under his tutelage and his teachings and his legacy. Same with our bracelets. And I keep saying over and over again, anybody that wants one, I have the inserts to go. I could either email you the copies. I think a sister asked me for those. And I'm about to email it to you, or I could mail it to you. Whatever it is. I was out of town and I'm sorry I haven't got back to you sooner, but I did not forget you. All right. But just so we know, it's on us. Ain't nobody supposed to do it for you. See, Chief had me and certain other brothers making the bracelets to where nobody could have had an excuse to say, oh, I ain't got a bracelet. You know what I'm saying? You can't do that. You can't do that because we have bracelets here. You want one? They wasn't even for sale. You get to get one for free. All you got to do is put in a bid and say, hey, I want one. And I would have been commissioned to spend hours in making it for somebody. And I didn't have a problem with that because I felt like I'm not only serving my teacher and leader, but I'm also serving God to provide for his people, to help people do more law, to turn people towards his law. Because that's supposed to be all of our objective. So why are we slacking? Why don't we have this and this? All you have to do is ask. I could tell you where I got it. I could tell you how to make it. I could show it to you. I could even make you one of these. All you have to do is ask. This is where pride comes in, or rather say humility. It's not our job to go around and say, here, you. It's your job to inquire. It's your job to seek God 10 times more. It's all of our job to seek him 10 times more. Besides, we got other things that we're trying to get right in our own houses. It's not like we could be on top of everybody else like that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm not better at that. But you have to inquire. You go after the things that you want. Closed mouth don't get fed. Ain't that what we say, right? So if you want it, you'll ask for it, or else you ain't getting it. And there's no excuse. Now, I ain't going to buy you a frontlet. You got to make one or you got to buy one. But I'll send you the insert that you could put in it. I'll send you the copies. I'll send you the copies for your doorposts. There's no reason why none of us should not have the doorposts and all of the doorposts in your house. Our teacher did not put them on bathrooms. He taught us not to put it on the bathroom. And I stopped putting it on closets also. But Hey, doorposts. It was not specific. Oh, it's just talking about the 2 front doorposts, Aki. I didn't read that. I don't know that. So our teacher said, when in doubt, do without, and do it the way the words say. And it says doorposts, plural. Oh, but that's because there's 2. That's what you say. It's not what the book say. So all of us should have it on your house. And this, of course, is easy if you grew up in a house where law is being done. Then the doorpost was put on by your parents. That's easy. But now you know the real tests come in when you go and you get a place of your own. Then we're going to see who's about God, who's about these commandments. Do you got the doorpost on your house immediately when you first move in? See, this is how wisdom tests us to see if we are trustworthy to receive her treasures. And if we slack, they don't believe you. That's what she gonna say to God. They don't believe you. So I gotta go find someone else that believes you. That's how it works, man. I hope we understand. You get in what you put in. You get out of it what you put in. And stop looking at what everybody else is doing. Hold yourself accountable and live up to your responsibility. Men be men first. Before we talk about chiefs and princes, let's be men. Tom Shee.
And that ye may teach the children of Israel all the statutes which the Lord hath spoken unto them by the hand of Moses.
This one I said, oh, this verse talking to me, because I ain't no priest. We ain't in the tabernacle, but I got to keep myself straight with God, and especially talking about God laws, that in a sober mindset, and also not be overtaken by my own vices, so that I go into it not with a clear head. And also that I got to put a difference between holy and common, and between unclean and clean, because I'm supposed to teach the laws of God to the children of Israel, which the Lord has spoken unto them by the hand of Moses. It ain't no different. It's a responsibility. You might say, I don't have that responsibility. You may not count it as that. I got to count it as that, because I know that God appointed my teacher, and that my teacher was of the last of the prophets of God. I know for a fact, and I know that anything that he decreed stands in the heavens. So you may not count me as a teacher or a prince or whatever, and that's fine. But God does, and that's what counts. I'm not here to please man. I'm here to please God and treat men right according to God's laws. Tom Shee.
And Moses spake unto Aaron and unto Eleazar and unto Ithamar, his sons that were left, take the meat offering that remaineth of the offerings of the Lord made by fire, and eat it without leaven beside the altar, for it is most holy.
Take the meal offering. It's a meal offering. It's made of flour. That remaineth of the offerings of the Lord made by fire, and eat it without leaven beside the altar. So they had to bake cakes of it that were unleavened and eat it beside the altar, because it's most holy, because it's a meal offering. Tom Shee.
And ye shall eat it in the holy place, because it is thy due, and thy sons' due, of thy sacrifices of the Lord made by fire. For so I am commanded.
It is thy portion, where it says, it is thy due, and thy son's portion of the offerings of the Lord made by fire. For so I am commanded. Again, offering and offering, and it feeds a man, even though the offering may have been for you, for an atonement, right? Okay. This was the meal offering, something separate, not for an atonement, but it was also of the offerings that God commanded the priest to offer on behalf of the nation, on behalf of upholding the priesthood, which is to benefit the nation, right? And this is what we fail to realize, that the priests were who joined the nation to God. If they fail in one of these prescribed orders, it affects the entire nation. Tom Shee.
And the wave breast and heave shoulder shall ye eat in a clean place, thou and thy sons and thy daughters with thee, for they be thy due, and thy sons' due, which are given out of the sacrifices of peace offerings of the children of Israel.
A peace offering. Remember, it's given at your own free will. We read it last week or the week before, Leviticus 19. If you offer it at your own free will, then it has to be done exactly that it may be accepted, because the words for own free will and that it may be accepted is the same word, lerazon. And if you don't offer it to the exact prescribed order to the letter, then it is not of your own free will no more, and it is not accepted, because we didn't use our will to do God's will. Instead, we used our will to do our own will and expected God to accept us. So in this case, he said, of the offerings of the peace offerings, it's the wave breast, because they wave it before God, and then they eat it. It doesn't get burnt on the altar. And of the heaved, of the thigh of the heave offering, they heave it, right? And then they would eat it, of Aaron's sons and his daughters. That's how they ate. That's why at a certain time, when the people stopped bringing their offerings, the priests had to go hire themselves out so that they could eat. That's what we read in the book of Judges. And in the house of Micah, he hired the Levite, right? And then the Danites came and took that man with them, right? Right? So it said, pipe down, lest angry fellows fall upon thee, when he went to chase after them. But this is just a point to show that the priests ate and received their portions from us. When we gave our offerings to God, when we gave our tenth of our first fruits, when we gave our tenth, our tithes of our yield from our crop, right? And of the offerings that we brought. Okay, so Tamshi? 15.
Yeah. The heave shoulder and the wave breast shall they bring with the offerings made by fire of the fat to wave it for a wave offering before the Lord. And it shall be thine and thy sons with thee by statute forever, as the Lord hath commanded.
So this mentions the fat, and it's going to be thine. It's going to be Aaron's and his sons. They didn't eat the fat, but they used it for certain things, like curing leather, like making soap, right? So they used all the parts of the animal. Tamshi?
And Moses diligently sought the goat of the sin offering, and behold, it was burnt, and he was angry with Eleazar and Ithamar, the sons of Aaron, which were left alive, saying,
I'm going over these things because we hear in one part of the verse say all the fat was burnt, all the fat belongs to the Lord, and then we just think that every fat of every offering was burnt on the altar, and that's not the case. Certain offerings were to be burnt on the altar, certain offerings were to be waved and heaved, and Aaron and his sons partook of those offerings. Whether they ate it of the flesh and took of the fat, that depended on the offering, right? Or it was burnt, depended on the offering. I'm saying all that to make a point. Tamshi, bear with me.
Wherefore have ye not eaten a sin offering in the holy place, seeing it is most holy, and God hath given it you to bear the iniquity of the congregation, to make atonement for them before the Lord.
So Moses sought for the goat of the sin offering, and he's looked for it, and he found out it was burnt. And so he got angry at Eleazar and Ithamar, the sons of Aaron that were left, and he said, hey, why you didn't eat the sin offering in the holy place, in the sanctuary, seeing it is most holy? And he gave it to you to bear the iniquity of the congregation and to make an atonement for them before the Lord. So they bear the iniquity, and while they make an atonement for them, before the sin is expiated, the sin is on their shoulders. They're bearing it. That's why they had to maintain holiness. That's why you cannot offer this offering before God of strange fire, because you bearing the sins of the congregation, and certain things are upon your shoulders that when you mess up in one of these offerings, that sin is going to take you over. Now, this was an incense offering, so it was different. It wasn't of the offering of a sin offering. But the point is that you are so close to God, and that the weight of the welfare of the nation is on your shoulders. So you have to take this thing seriously. And I didn't catch it till the next verse is going to explain a little bit more, but till I read it in another chapter. Tamshi, verse 18.
Behold, the blood of it was not brought in within the holy place. He should indeed have eaten it in the holy place as I commanded.
So Moses said, why didn't you eat the goat of the sin offering? It's your job to make an atonement for them. And if you don't do it exactly the way it's prescribed, and you don't eat it, and you let the whole thing be burnt, then you can't make an atonement for them. And that sin is on you. And it was not brought, the blood of it was not brought into the holy place. So I read this, I said, okay, that's part of the procedure. They were supposed to bring the blood into the holy place, until I was reading the other day in Leviticus chapter 6. And it baffled me at first. But you read here a little, you read there a little, and then you get an understanding, and we connect the dots. If God chooses to show you and open your eyes. Go to Leviticus chapter 6 and read me the last verse of the chapter. Malik? Yes.
Chapter 6.
I mean, you describe. Leviticus chapter 6, right? No, that's not it. Just go to the, just press this, and then just go to press this, and then scroll all the way down. There you go.
And no sin offering whereof any of the blood is brought into the tabernacle of the congregation to reconcile withal in the holy place shall be eaten. It shall be burnt in the fire.
So I read this verse, and it said, no sin offering whereof any of the blood is brought into the holy place. It don't say to reconcile. It says likaper, to make an atonement in the holy place, shall be eaten. It shall be burnt with fire. So when I read it, I said, wait a minute. Then why was Moses angry with them for not eating of the goat of the sin offering, if it says here that they're not supposed to eat of it if the blood was brought into the tent of meeting? So I went back and read it. And Moses said, behold, the blood of it was not brought into the sanctuary, was not brought into the holy place. You should have certainly have eaten it. Now, that's why Moses told them that they got to eat it. Because if the blood was brought into the holy place, then it should not be eaten. But since the blood was not brought into the holy place, they were supposed to eat it. Or else the atonement doesn't go through. It's more than one type of trespass offering, more than one type of sin offering. This particular offering is a sin. Is a goat for a sin offering. Another type of offering for a sin offering is a ram. Another part of a sin offering is a lamb. We have to look it up and see that if you read the book of Leviticus in the first, 7, 8 chapters, it tells you about the offerings, and it tells us which type of offerings it is. And that they all are prescribed different orders, different procedures for carrying it out in an acceptable manner before God. And if you do it outside of any of those orders, it is not accepted. And in most cases, it becomes abominable. So the point why Moses was angry because they didn't eat it is because it was not of the sin offering where the blood is supposed to be brought into the holy place. So therefore, this is an offering that you should have eaten. And so he's when I'm reading this, I'm saying, oh, Moses is correcting them to let them know that, hey, this is not the type of offering where you could burn it like the other sin offerings where the blood is brought into the sanctuary, because you're not supposed to eat that one. This is of the type of sin offering where the blood was not brought into the sanctuary, so you're supposed to have eaten it. Because remember, they're the first generation of priests. But Moses was not rebuking them that they didn't eat it just because it was a sin offering, but because it was the type of sin offering where the blood was not brought into the holy place. So he's rebuking them, saying, hey, this is not that type of offering where you don't supposed to eat it, like we just read about in the last verse of Leviticus chapter 6. No sin offering where any of the blood is brought into the holy place to make an atonement shall be eaten. And so he's correcting them according to that. Now let's hear what Aaron's response was. Mind you, you don't read a response from Eleazar and Ithamar. Okay? They stood in their place. Listen here, Unc. We was following our pops, okay? Don't be coming at us. They show respect. Not just because Moses was the head, but he's also their uncle. So sometimes that breeds a familiarity that I could talk to him like this. He's my uncle. No. Don't forget your uncle is a head. Don't forget your uncle is a chief. Don't forget your uncle is a teacher. Don't forget your uncle is a prince. And show respect where respect is due. Tom Sheet. What'd he say? What did Aaron say? Yes. Just do this. Let's see an easier way to get there. Just click back on that. Leviticus 10, and then go down, second to the last verse.
Okay. And Aaron said unto Moses, behold, this day have they offered their sin offering and their burnt offering before the Lord, and such things have befallen me. And if I had eaten the sin offering today, should it have been accepted in the sight of the Lord?
So Aaron says, hey, listen, Moses. They offered their burnt offering, their sin offering before the Lord. And then such things have befallen me, which tells me they offered, these offerings didn't take like 1 and 2 minutes to prepare. They offered their sin offering and their burnt offering while their brothers were offering the incense offering. And before they could finish the procedure, that happened. And God burnt up their brothers. And so Aaron saw that, and he said, he fell back, and he said, well, I can't eat of the sin offering for the people because the sin is in my house. And God put us in the stead of the priest to make an atonement to bear the iniquity of the congregation so that we could make an atonement for the people. But if you read Leviticus, on the Day of Atonement, Leviticus 16, Aaron cannot make an atonement for the congregation until he make an atonement for himself and his house first. So since they already started the preparation of that goat for a sin offering before Nadab and Abihu were burnt because they offered strange fire before the Lord, he couldn't finish the procedure by eating of it, or his sons couldn't finish of it by eating it, because the sin was found in his house. The sin came out of his house, and he would have to make an atonement for himself and his household first before he make an atonement for the congregation of the people. And that's why Aaron said, such things have been befallen me. If I would have eaten it in the sight of the Lord, would it have been accepted? No, he wouldn't have, because he would have to make an atonement for himself and his house first before he can make an atonement for the congregation. Now, I say this all the time. The teachers, the heads, the shepherds who God has appointed have to take this thing very seriously and hold ourselves in a higher regard and a higher standard, not to look down on people, not to wear a chip on our shoulder, but to understand that the same words that we spit into the people are like chains and fetters on our own feet and our own hands, that we are bound by these same words. And if the people listen to us and follow us, and we're not teaching what the book says, God's going to hold us accountable. And it behooves us as teachers and heads. And that's not just for the house of the Maccabees, but any Israelite out there that's proclaiming to be a teacher, or that's got a YouTube channel, or is the head or a teacher in a congregation, that God is going to hold us accountable when the people go astray. And it's not to be taken lightly. These words fall on us, and we are bound by them more so than the people listening, more so than the congregation. And God will charge us first. And it's not a light thing to play with. You better be reading, you better be studying, and you better uphold the words that come out of your mouth. Because every week I get up on this platform and I say yada, yada, this and da, 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 bust down the law. And then during the week, I don't follow it. What you think God, is that going to make me before God? See, because what you don't see in my life don't matter. Because God sees me behind closed doors. God sees me when I'm alone. God sees me when I'm around people that ain't going to rebuke me because they don't know the law. God sees me how I carry with my family and my household. God sees what I uphold in my house when nobody else is around, or what I don't uphold. God can see through walls. God can see through your chest. He can see what you're feeling. He can see what you're gonna do before you do it. He can see what you think before you think it. He can see who you're gonna become before you become it. This is not a light thing. And if you ain't gonna take it seriously like that, if we ain't gonna take it seriously like that, then we need to stop. That's how I'm talking to myself. I'm putting it out there for whoever is humble enough to receive the message. And if we're not gonna take it like that, hey, Tamshi. But as for me, this is not a light thing. I don't take this lightly. And believe me, he banged me when he been banging me. I still get banged. You gotta look at those things, man. Look at our lives. And when Moses heard that, he was content. It was well pleasing in his sight, is what the book says. Because Moses understood, okay, that's why you didn't eat it. And the sons just followed their father, which is what they're supposed to do. He said, if I had eaten the sin offering today, Aaron. So that means his son just followed him. They said, man, I don't want to say nothing, man. You see the sin offering getting burnt, man. Should we say something to Abba? He said, man, don't say nothing, man. You see what just happened. God told him we couldn't even cry when our brothers died. We can't even cry. Don't say nothing to Abba. Just whatever he do, that's what we do. These are lessons, man. There's so many lessons in this 20 verses of Leviticus chapter 10. The law of the Lord is like a pomegranate. The more you peel away, the more layers are exposed. One little grain, one little seed carries enough juice to give you a drink. And that's not even scratching the surface of how many principles you're going to find in this one chapter, how many morals you're going to find, how many ways of God that we're going to find in here. All right, from here, let's go to the Wisdom of Solomon. Some good stuff in here. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 16. And before we get into it, I took some notes on this because it's heavy, man. It's heavy. King Solomon is describing in the Wisdom of Solomon, King Solomon is describing the events of the Exodus in many of these chapters. The events of the wilderness, right? The events of the plagues, like 7, 8, 10, 11, 16, 17, 18, 19. He's describing the events of the Exodus, explaining how the natural world and its elements, such as fire and water, altered their natural standard behaviors to accommodate God's commands to deliver and protect his people. The themes of the Exodus, plagues, and the creation are closely woven together in this book. King Solomon, with whom the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob commanded wisdom to dwell indefinitely, not like us when we sin, wisdom flees. When he sinned, wisdom was commanded to stay with him. That's why he could write a whole book of Proverbs and tell you about what he did in his folly. He loaned his heart to folly, but he still had the clarity of mind and seeing his life through the lens of wisdom to be able to tell him and show him where he went wrong, and so that he could write it down and warn us. Expounds on the unfolding events of the Exodus as not only a historical event or a military victory, but a refashioning of the entire world itself. By his vast understanding and knowledge of the ways of God, he combines both concepts to explain how the elements changed. For wisdom gives comprehension to the prudent of things unfathomable to common men. Things that most men can't grasp, the depths of the things that most men read the book and can't see, wisdom chooses to show certain men things according to our diligence, according to our allegiance, according to our dedication to God. showing and proving that we believe him with action, with sacrifice, right? Okay, so my scribe stepped off for a second, but let's go. Let me start off for him. All right, so Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 16, not 17, 16. Therefore, by the like were they punished worthily, and by the multitude of beasts tormented. If you go in the previous chapter, it's speaking about sinners, it's speaking about idolaters, speaking about people that worship beasts, people that worship idols. And now it's going to make a reference, and we're going to start reading about how these people were the Egyptians. Therefore, by the like were they punished worthily, meaning they deserved it, and by the multitude of beasts tormented. Instead of which punishment, dealing graciously with thine own people, thou preparest for them meat of a strange taste, even quails, to stir up their appetite. Instead of punishing us, he dealt graciously with us because we're his people, and prepared for us meat of a strange taste, even quails to stir up their appetite. I've tasted quail, and it does have a what they would call gamey taste, right? I tasted chicken back in the days before I was living this way of life. And although quail might taste similar, they say everything tastes like chicken. Somebody ate a snake and said, what it tastes like? Yeah, it tastes like chicken. Ate some frog legs. What it tastes like chicken. I didn't get that. I tasted quail and it said you could tell it's a different bird. But okay. To the end that they, desiring food, might for the ugly sight of the beast sent among them loathe even that which they must needs desire. So when we read they, it's talking about, in this chapter, it's talking about the Egyptian. When we read these, it's talking about Israel. Okay, so to the end that they, the Egyptians, desiring food, because remember, during the plagues, their crops was destroyed, right? Their cattle was destroyed. So they might, for the ugly sight of the beasts that were sent among them, loathe even that which they must needs desire. Because remember, frogs were sent amongst them, flies, locusts, right? But these suffering penury for a short pace, these, talking about Israel, suffering penury. Penury is like poverty or when you're in lack, because we didn't have food in the wilderness, right? Suffering penury for a short space might be made partakers of a strange taste. Because we suffered that lack of food, now you might be partaker with the strange taste of the quail. For it was requisite, it was required, that upon them exercising tyranny should come penury. So when you act like a tyrant, you're going to fall into poverty. This is what it says. This is what King Solomon said. It was required, requisite. You know, when you go to college, you got to take a prerequisite. That's the course you got to take that is required for you to get to your major, right? It's requisite, it's required that upon them exercising tyranny should come penury. Because the Egyptians exercised tyranny, they were tyrants over us. It's only right, Solomon said, that they should suffer poverty, a lack of food, which they could not avoid. But to these, to the children of Israel, it should only be showed how their enemies were tormented. God is showing us how they suffered. And we did not, because he sent quails for us when we were starving. Tom Shee, go ahead, verse 5.
For when the horrible fierceness of beasts came upon these, and they perished.
Okay, so when you read these and they, I want you to emphasize, okay? Came upon these, okay? And when they, I want you to emphasize so that we follow along with you and we know that these is Israel and they are the Egyptians. Okay, Tom Shee, read verse 5 again.
For when the horrible fierceness of beasts came upon these, and they perished with the stings of crooked serpents, thy wrath endured not forever.
Right. For when we, the horrible fierceness of beasts came upon us, the Israelites, and we perished with the things of crooked serpents when the serpents bit us in the wilderness, when God sent fiery serpents to bite us, thy wrath endured not forever. His wrath didn't endure forever. But verse 6.
But they were troubled for a small season, that they might be
admonished. Admonished. Say admonished.
Admonished.
Okay. Having a sign of salvation to put them in remembrance of the commandment of the law. But they were troubled. Israel was troubled for a small season, that we might be admonished, corrected, having a sign of salvation. Because God told Moses, when the fiery serpents attacked the Israelites, God commanded Moses to make a bronze serpent and set it upon a pole. And when any man that was bitten looked thereon, he was healed. Wisdom, by the words of King Solomon, teaches a beautiful lesson here. It wasn't the physical object that saved them, but God, who is the Savior of all. Now, if we do our research, we'll find out that in Egypt, there was a god called Apep, also known as Apophis. Not saying the names, not pronouncing it, because God commanded us, he shall not make mention or call to remembrance the names of other gods, right? And this was the ancient Egyptian spirit of evil, darkness, and chaos, depicted as a giant serpent. He was considered so dangerous that it was believed merely seeing his true form or speaking his name could bring about madness or death. Known as the arch enemy of the sun god Ra, Apep was viewed not as a god to be worshipped, but as a destructive force that the priests of Egypt actively worked to banish. The serpent of chaos, okay? The personification of primordial chaos, not being a non-being, and the end of the world. Every night, Apep would attempt to swallow Ra's solar barge or whatever as it traveled, and they believed that he was preventing the sun to rise or whatever, right? Some Egyptian stuff. But the point was that the reason why God commanded them to look upon the staff that Moses made was because it was to prove them, to test them, to see if they still feared the gods of Egypt. Because in Egypt, if you looked upon the serpent god, you would die. It was believed that you would die. So they wouldn't look upon it. So you still had people in the wilderness that feared the gods of Egypt. Remember, a mixed multitude left. There was Egyptians along with them, and some Israelites of our fathers that entered the wilderness in that first generation still feared the gods of the Egyptians. So if they were bit and they refused to look upon the pole, they would not be healed. Whereas in Egypt, it was believed the other way around, that if you looked upon the snake, you would die. So God put that before them as a test to see if they will believe him and fear him over the gods of Egypt, over Apep or Apo K-pop, whatever, right? So this is where Moses built a brazen serpent and put it upon the pole, which is still the same symbol that the medical industry uses today as a sign or symbol of healing, even though we know the medical industry is not in it to heal people. They're in it to treat you and keep you coming back so that the insurance rings and the doctors could all get paid. But the point is they use it as their symbol of healing, because this is what the medical industry should be about. But that started from here, and it came from Exodus. The book of Numbers, chapter 21. And our fathers were tested by God to see if we're going to look upon the serpent and believe God and then be healed, or fear the gods of Egypt and not look upon it and then die because you didn't deserve to be healed because you don't believe God. Okay. All right, Tom Shee.
For he that turned himself toward it was not saved by the thing that he saw, but by thee, that art the Savior of all.
Right. That God is the Savior of all. Not a man, not a myth, not some legendary folklore. Not believe and you save, but believe God by proving it, by keeping his commandments, by showing through action that it's God that will save you. This is why this whole lesson today is about, if we trust God, then everything will fall into place. See, it's called creation serves its creator, right? For the benefit of his chosen. That's what the lesson is today. But also think of it this way too. Creation serves its creator. All of creation serves its creator, except one, except us, except man. The fire fears God. The earth itself fears God. The air, the wind fears God. Ice, hail fears God. The ocean fears God. All of the creatures fear God and do what they're supposed to do according to the order of life that he set up in the beginning. Except us, except man. Now we, being the children of Israel, God's chosen people, know what is pleasing to our God. Happy are we, O Israel, for the things that are pleasing to God are made known to us. But we act like we don't know, or we act like we don't care. And we use it to our advantage. We are the same people that went to sin and then brought a sin offering back to God. We're the same mentality. We know better, but we don't do better. Tom Shee.
And in this thou madest thine enemies confess that it is thou who deliverest from evil.
Even our enemies confess that it's God who delivered them from evil. Because the Egyptians that were amongst us in the wilderness, they confessed. The mixed multitude that was amongst us in Egypt, the children of Israel, the Israelites that were amongst us in Egypt that still feared the God of the Egyptians, all confessed that it's God that delivered us from evil. All who heard the stories of what happened to us in the wilderness, of the nations round about us, in Moab, in Ammon, in Edom, in Egypt, everybody heard. The Canaanites, they all confessed that God delivers us from evil. Tom Shee. We the only ones that don't believe it. Am I the only ones that still believes the old stories? Huh? Y'all see The House of David? It's pretty good. It's not exactly like the book, but I like that they upheld certain morals and concepts. But David said that in the movie before he goes to fight Goliath. Am I the only one that still believes the old stories? That it is God, that the battle is the Lord's? God will deliver us. He said, did Samuel choose you? He said, God chose me. And it's that type of conviction that's supposed to mean something. We're supposed to have that belief that God will deliver us. We are his people. But why we don't act like it? Why are we afraid? What are you afraid of? Why we fear man so much? Oh, man, they're going to do this, man. They're going to shut down the stores. Oh, man, we're going to go to war, man. Oh, man. Everything's to put us in fear so that we could lean on a man or run to a man for help. I wish I would run to a man for help. See, God is that was sarcastic, by the way. God is our help. We turn to God. We cleave to God for everything. I don't care how many people. I don't care how many men. I don't care how strong. I don't care how rich. I don't care how powerful. God is our defender. You don't fear one guy, 2 guys, 10 guys, 1,000, 1,000,000. Who cares? It's all the same to God. And they're gone. Just like that. And he does that for the benefit of his people. He make the world turn against them on our behalf. Even the whole of the world, if them dead come against us, is real, man. It's not just lyrics to a song. Go listen to Ben Isaac and Maccabees. Angels fight with us. Tom Shee.
For them the bitings of grasshoppers and flies killed, neither was there found any remedy for their life, for they were worthy to be punished by such.
That's right. Stokes. That's exactly right, Chief Abraham. We got to be careful of what we let our kids watch on TV too, without being there to counter it and to teach them what it's really about, because it's a subconscious brainwash. Next thing you know, our children grow up in fear, and then we wonder why they don't have this tight conviction with God to only fear God and to keep his commandments, even in a world where nobody is serving him. For them, the bitings of grasshoppers and flies killed. Neither was there found any remedy for their life. You say grasshoppers. It's probably a loose translation, because I didn't read about grasshoppers in the plague, but I did read about locusts. And they bit them, and flies killed them. See, that part ain't written, but I ain't going to say Solomon is not speaking truth, because he knows stuff that we don't know. He said, and it killed them. The bitings of the locusts and the flies killed them. Neither was there found any remedy for their life, for they were worthy to be punished by such. The same things they worshipped killed them. But thy sons, not the very teeth of venomous dragons, overcame. For thy mercy was ever by them and healed them. God's mercy healed us. And not even fiery serpents could kill us. All you had to do was believe God and look upon the staff. That alone, one action to show that you believe God. Tom Shee, verse 11.
For they were prickled, that they
Pricked.
should remember
Pricked.
that pricked, that they should remember thy words, and were quickly saved, that not falling into deep forgetfulness, they might be continually mindful of thy goodness.
So God made them forget. He made the Egyptians forget everything that they went through. That's why they continued against us. But God pricked us with this chastisement, that we should remember his words. And that's the point of every chastisement, every evil thing that befalls us. That's why I go over the book with my kids. I make them read a couple chapters every day. Then we go over, and what I was telling them this week is that all of God's chastisement is good. It's to put us in remembrance of God's words and where we have sinned. We're supposed to bethink ourselves when we get punished. When evil things happen to us, it's not always for evil intended against us. It's for good in the long run, to cause us to bethink ourselves, to turn to God, to remember his words. And then you start to see things turn around. As soon as you acknowledge that you sinned, you start to see things turn around. But as long as I'm saying, man, I ain't do nothing, it's that person's fault. It's their fault. They the reason why, not me. Look, let me show you in the book where I'm right. Look. Moses did this, and comparing myself to all these righteous men that didn't do no wrong. And I won't admit that I am also at fault. It's nothing going to turn around. Those of us that have been in the belly of the beast, you know, as soon as you humble yourself and you accept of the punishment and you admit where you went wrong and you confess before God, you start to see things turn around. But until then, the time get dragged on. It get dragged on. You don't even know sometimes what it's going to be, how long you're going to be there at first, because they talking about throwing the whole jail on top of you. Right? But as soon as we humble ourselves, we start to see things go in our favor. You start to see the elements fight for you. You start to see hearts change towards you. You start to get privileges. That not falling into deep forgetfulness. See, God chastises us and prick us with these venomous, fiery serpents, that we don't fall into forgetfulness of all the good that he has done for us. That's why you keep hearing me say over and over, the key to the guilty conscience, to maintaining that guilty conscience, is thankfulness, is gratitude, that we don't forget where we came from. We don't forget what we have done before God, because we are thankful for all that he has done for us. That they might continually be mindful of thy goodness. That's what it says. It said the same thing I just said. Not falling into deep forgetfulness, they might be continually mindful of his goodness that he did for us. Verse 12, Tamshi.
For it was neither herb nor mollifying plaster that restored them to health, but thy word, O Lord, which healeth all things.
It wasn't an herb, it wasn't a medicine. It was God's word that heals all things. I don't care what they tell you. Most people that have, this type of injury ain't gonna walk again. Most people that have this, they ain't gonna talk again. Or, most people that have this, they're gonna die. So, I hate to tell, I don't care what they say. You ain't God. I heard God tell people that. And I know one brother right now, doctors told him he wasn't gonna survive 6 months. That was 6-some years ago. He been serving God ever since. So we got to understand that believing God is what's going to deliver us. Believing God. And you can't just say you believe. You got to show you believe. And you do that through actions by changing your ways, by changing your heart, by changing your actions, by changing your likes and your dislikes to align with what God said is right and pleasing in his eyes. And until we do that, ain't nothing moving. The elements will not work in your favor. Hearts will not turn towards you, but against you. And your life will not change. We are masters of our own destiny. And it's not because you will it strongly enough or you speak these words in repetition every day. I'm rich, I'm rich, I'm rich. It don't work like that. It's when you believe God and you show through your beliefs. You show your beliefs through action, through words, through the way you feel. Because that's one thing you can't hide. You can put on an act. You can speak words. But if they don't align with the way you feel, God and wisdom will look upon us and say, they don't believe me. Tamshi.
For thou hast power of life and death. Thou leadest to the gates of hell and bringest up again.
That's right. He sure does. He sure does. He did it for me. Thou hast power over life and death. Thou leadest to the gates of hell and bringest up again. Tamshi.
And man indeed killeth through his malice, and the spirit when it is gone forth returneth not, neither the soul received up cometh again.
You want to stand up? I think you should stand up right here. Yeah, come on, stand up right here. And get on point. But it is not possible to escape thine hand. You can't escape God's hand. The spirit ain't going to return again. Once it's gone, it ain't coming back. For the ungodly that denied to know thee were scourged by the strength of thine arm. The ungodly, the Egyptians that refused to know God. You're a Pharaoh. I don't know your God. I don't know the Lord. In the Hebrew, it says he don't know Yod He Wav He. He ain't listening to him. And we see what happened. All of Egypt was destroyed because of Pharaoh, because of the hardening of his heart, right? And who God hardened his heart. But another thing we need to understand, God's not going to do something to you that's not already in you. God's not going to push you to do righteousness if it's not already your intention to do righteousness. God's not going to harden your heart against him if your heart is not already hardened against him. He's just going to give you more of what you already are. If you're stubborn, he's going to give you more stubbornness. If you're proud, he's going to give you more pride. If you're humble, he's going to give you wisdom. He's going to give you strength. Because people think that humility is weakness. When the books of the Apocrypha were removed from the Old Testament, faithless pagan Greek philosophers of the time argued that the laws of nature could never change and dismissed the accounts of the Exodus and King Solomon's wisdom as allegory. Wisdom herself, through the eloquence of speech, in the depths and complexities of the Hebrew language, by the writings of King Solomon, answers this by saying that God did not break the world when he performed miracles. Instead, he played it like a musical instrument, altering the notes, tuning it to a new harmony agreeable to his ear, a proportional balance for his purpose to deliver his people while executing a just judgment upon sinners, the oppressors of his people, and all the gods of Egypt. The book of the Wisdom of Solomon, often referred to as the Book of Wisdom, is like no other in the writings of the Tanakh or the Old Testament, including the Apocrypha. One might suggest that it was written by Wisdom herself, had she not been the epitome of strength and humility. That's why she spoke to a man to write it, because wisdom not about taking credit. Wisdom has a job to do and a responsibility before God. Her humility is her strength, something we get twisted. We think that humbling ourselves makes us weak. Fools mistake meekness for weakness, but the wise understand where true power lies. Wisdom giveth strength and courage and power, for with her there is no defeat. Therefore with the wise there is no doubt, no confusion, no fear of loss, only acceptance and complete trust in God. But pride repels wisdom, for she is only attracted to the meek. Wherefore she speaks to men in the spirit, and her words are uttered through the voices and writings of those who believe God, whom she is drawn to. For wisdom is a loving spirit and proves them by much discipline, watching their reactions through trials and tribulations until they be humbled and show themselves trustworthy before making men the friends of God. And by them who are selectively chosen, she leaves a map to her treasures for the generations to follow. This is all the Wisdom of Solomon teaches us. It is a map to teach us the way to acquire wisdom and the way to please God, the way to rule the spirit, the way to manipulate your reality. Because with God on your side, we don't lose. When we went to battle, nobody died when God was with us. Not one. That's unheard of. To go to war and have 0 casualties. Today, every single nation that go to war suffers casualties, even the side that wins. But not us. When God was with us, we didn't lose one. In the Wisdom of Solomon, both the plague of darkness and the manna from heaven serve as ultimate proofs of creation. King Solomon explains that God does not work against the world. Instead, he uses the built-in flexible properties of his own creation to balance the scales of justice. In the plagues of darkness versus, the light of creation, he paints a terrifying picture in the 9th plague, describing in chapters 17 and 18, describing this darkness as a temporary reversal of God's original creation, order of creation, because it was dark for the Egyptians. God separated the light from the darkness in the beginning and called the light good. During the plagues of darkness, God undid that order specifically for the oppressors only. He cast Egypt into a heavy night, even darkness that may be felt. This wasn't a regular darkness, a physical preview of death. That's what he put them through. The darkness was so thick and unnatural that the elements ceased to function normally. No fire had the strength to give light, and even the stars could not penetrate the thick gloom of the dark. Fire, an element meant to illuminate, lost its visual property entirely for the Egyptians. A torch would not work. While Egypt was totally immobilized during this terrifying darkness, the rest of the world was filled with brilliant light and went about its business as usual. Creation didn't break down worldwide. It was selectively commanded to hide its face from one specific people in one place, giving light to Israel and Goshen right next door and the rest of the entire world. This is the God we serve. If this don't inspire you to pick up and get tight with God, I don't know what else to tell you. The manna. The description of the manna in Wisdom of Solomon 16 is one of the most fascinating passages to show how creation adjusts itself out of love for God's children. We're about to read about it now. Tom Sheep.
For which is most to be wondered at, the fire had more force in the water that quencheth all things. For the world fighteth for the righteous.
The world fighteth for the righteous. Keep that in mind. If things ain't going your favor, it's because we ain't right. Tom Sheep.
For some time the flame was
mitigated,
that it might not burn up the beasts that were sent against the ungodly, but themselves might see and perceive that they were persecuted with the judgment of God.
Right. So sometime the fire that was sent amongst the Egyptians ceased so that the beast could attack them, so that they could see that the same things that they worshiped, they were tormented by, and that this was a judgment of God. Tom Sheep.
And at another time it burneth even in the midst of the water above the power of fire, that it might destroy the fruits of an unjust land.
It destroyed all of their crop. Whatever the locusts left, the fire and the hail came down. Tom Sheep.
Instead whereof
Tom Sheep.
Instead whereof thou feedest thine own people with angels' food.
And instead, God fed us with angels' food, is what Solomon calls it.
And did send them.
Hold on a second. The description of them. Okay, King Solomon refers to manna as the food of angels. In a brilliant display of elements changing in themselves, it states that this bread altered its flavor and property to suit the desire of whoever ate it. It miraculously ministered to the desire of the one who gathered it and changed to match everyone's individual liking. Tom Sheep. Instead, 20.
Instead whereof thou feedest thine own people with angels' food, and didst send them from heaven bread prepared without their labor, able to content every man's delight, and agreeing to every taste.
Tom Sheep.
For thy
sustenance
declared thy sweetness unto thy children, and serving to the appetite of the eater, tempered itself
to every man's liking. Meaning the manna itself tempered itself, altered itself to every man's liking, to the taste of the one who prepared it. The fire paradox. Okay, that's what I call it. Manna looked like snow and ice, right? As God spoke, Moses wrote in Exodus 16:14. And when the dew that lay was gone up, behold, upon the face of the wilderness, there lay a small round thing as small as the hoarfrost on the ground, which normally should melt instantly in heat. Yet when the Israelites cooked it over a fire, it did not. This was a direct inversion of the plague of hell, where fire burned inside of the ice. In this case, the manna melted not in the midst of the fire. Why did God do this? Wisdom says it was to teach Israel. Let's read before I spoil it. Tom Sheep.
But snow and ice endured the fire and melted not, that they might note that fire burning in the hail and sparkling in the rain did destroy the fruits of the enemies. But this again did even forget his own strength, that the righteous might be nourished.
The fire forgot his own strength for the sake that the righteous might be nourished. So it did not melt the manna so that the righteous could be nourished. Tom
For
Sheep.
the creature that serveth thee, who art the maker, increaseth his strength against the unrighteous for their punishment, and abateth
his strength
for the benefit of such as put
their trust in thee. The creature, the fire that serveth thee, O Most High, who art the maker, increases his strength against the unrighteous, which means why the fire burned inside of the ice and did not get put out. He increases his strength against the unrighteous for their punishment, but abated his strength and did not burn the manna for the benefit of such as put their trust in thee. Because that was also a test. Go out and gather it every day. Go out and gather it every day to prove that you believe God. And if you didn't get out there early enough, there wouldn't be none. And if you took too much, then whatever you took that was beyond the portion for a man would melt and it would decay and would breed worms. And the rest that was on the ground that didn't get gathered, it would melt until the next day at the appointed time. But that same manna that was melted by the sunlight would not melt when they cooked it, when they baked it. Can't tell me that's not the power of God. The elements themselves, the creation serves the creator for the benefit of his chosen. That's the title of the lesson. Tom Shee.
Therefore, even then has it altered into all fashions, and was obedient to thy grace, that nourish all things according to the desire of them that had need.
Right. So that means the fire was altered into all fashions as whatever it was seen to be fit according to God's grace, because it was obedient to God's grace. Tom Shee.
That thy children, O Lord, whom
this
thou
is the
lovest,
reason why God did it. Tom Shee.
Might know that it is not the growing of fruits that nourish man, but that it is thy word which preserveth them that put their trust in thee.
It's not the growing of fruits, it's not food that's keeping you alive, but it's God's word that preserveth them that put their trust in him. I don't want to hear I can't. I don't want to hear but this, but that. I don't want to hear about the curses. I don't want to hear no excuses. Because when we serve God, the elements themselves will be changed to fight on your behalf. They could say it's a drought, but we will have food. God will show you where there is food. He will send food to you. We're talking about the same God that brought bread and flesh by a raven to his prophet Elijah. Oh, I ain't Elijah. And you don't believe like Elijah believed either, and that's why you won't get none. That's why the elements will not be changed for you, but they will be changed to accommodate those that believe God, those that show they believe God, that we believe God through our actions, by our dedication to his laws, by showing the sacrifices that we will make to do that which is right in his sight. We were right in the wilderness at one point where he said there was no iniquity found in Jacob. And then there were times where we went astray and plagues destroyed. One plague destroyed 24,000 men. We need to be mindful that these are lessons for us to learn, to inspire us to serve God with all our heart, with all our soul, and with all our might. I don't have time to be looking at you. I ain't got time to be blaming people. I ain't got time to be pointing fingers. I don't have time to be on anyone's back and anyone's head but my own. Now, when you're on your own self, you ain't going to help but notice the ones around you. And you rebuke and you get right back on yourself. Because we all wear the same size shoe. Tom Shee.
For that which was not destroyed of the fire, being warmed with a little sunbeam, soon melted away.
That which was not destroyed with the fire of the pillar of fire that was right there amongst us. You know, a pillar of fire, you know how far that heat is going to spread? And it didn't destroy the manna. But being warmed with a little sunbeam, soon melted away. The manna that would not burn under the fire of baking it, the sun would melt it if whatever wasn't gathered. Tom Shee?
That it might be known that we must prevent.
Hold on, hold it right there. The irony of all of this is a lesson in itself. For that which was not destroyed of the fire, being warmed with a little sunbeam, soon melted away. Though the manna could withstand the heat of the fire when it was baked, the very first ray of sunlight at daybreak would cause it to melt away like the frost. King Solomon notes that this was deliberately designed by God to force the people to wake up before dawn to give thanks to God. We're just going to sleep in, get up when I feel like it, say my prayers when I feel like it. You know, it's voluntary. You know, it don't say thou shalt pray to God. But that offering had a time limit. That offering had a time limit that went up in the temple. That offering that we are saying the Minkat prayer in place of, the daybreak offering, the evening offering, the continual burnt offering that we're replacing with the calves of our lips to give praises to our God, had a time frame. It was constraint, and it had to be offered at a certain time. You can't get up and say it whenever you feel like it. My alarm go off sometimes, I don't feel like getting up. I said, man, I ain't got to be nowhere real early today if I'm not working, so I could stay and sleep another hour. The second thought saying, you're unthankful. You can't get up and give praises to God. You're unthankful. You show God that you're not thankful for all the goodness that he has done for you. You can't get up and just say a simple prayer and give praises to him whom it is due because you're tired. Because you're tired. I don't know about y'all, but I speak to myself like this. We are gods. I'm a man. I don't have the luxury of blaming, complaining, or making excuses. That's for weak men. Imagine God taking his time when I cry out for help. Imagine God saying, I got other things to do. Imagine God saying, I'm tired. I'm tired of y'all running your mouth and giving me lip service and don't show through with actions. I'm tired too. Imagine that. I bet you get up next time the alarm go off. I bet you set an alarm, or you don't care. And then you get what you put in, or you get what you don't put in. That it might be known that we must prevent the sun to give thee thanks, and at the day spring pray unto thee. That's why he made the manna melt with the sunlight, so that you have to get up before sunrise to get the same food that you was crying to him for, so that you could thank God before the sun come up. See, we don't peep this out. Solomon taught us this. And now what you think is different today? You got a refrigerator full of food, cabinets, your storehouse is full. I don't care, even if you got one can of beans, you got something. You ain't never been without a meal. And if you were, you ain't never been a day without a meal. And if you were, it was the chastisement of the Lord to make you better, and look who you become today, because now you're more thankful when you do got something, and we still can't get up and give him his praises. Why? Because we're not starving. Why? Because we're not suffering. We got to be suffering to give praises to God, to give thanks to God, to cry out to God. When the last time we said a prayer just for thanksgiving, just to thank God? And you know what? If we really felt it, you wouldn't have to tell me to say it. You wouldn't have to say, hey, when's the last time you did that? You ain't give God his thanks. I ain't got to read the Psalms. I could just turn to God and say, thank you, O Most High God, for all that you have done for me. For you did this, you healed me, you did this, you saved my soul from the grave. You never left me destitute. You heard my cry and my prayer. because he ain't coming in his time. In our time, he come in his time when he sees fit. For the hope of the unthankful shall melt away as the winter's hoar frost, and shall run away as unprofitable water. Hear that? Because when we don't give up and give him his thanks, we are the unthankful. And our hope will melt away as the winter's hoar frost, just like the manna. And it's going to run away as unprofitable water. You ain't going to get to drink of it. We gotta be circumspect, man, and start checking ourselves. The harmony. Here's the harmony of the song that I spoke of earlier. I ain't make that up. I got it from Solomon. You read the book of Solomon, you'll understand the harmony that he was talking about, the song that God played with his creation by changing the notes of the tune. It said, for the elements were changed in themselves by a kind of harmony, as in a psaltery. That's a song. A psaltery is a song. Notes change the name of the tune, and yet are always sounds, which may well be perceived by the sight of the things that have been done. What does it say? Though a single note always makes the same sound, when you combine notes in different ways, you get an entirely new song. In the same way, the basic pieces of the world stayed the same, but God rearranged their properties to create a new kind of harmony in nature to benefit his people while punishing the sinners. King Solomon, in the eloquent speech of wisdom, paints a picture of how God, in the Exodus plagues, reversed, revised, and reordered nature to play a new song with the notes of his creation. The final chapters of the book of the Wisdom of Solomon review the Exodus plagues by comparing the suffering of the Egyptians to the blessings given to Israel. King Solomon recounts how that during the plagues, the elements did not act as they normally do, but shifted roles to punish the oppressors and save the righteous. He gives several specific examples of this elemental shift. Water and land. During the parting of the Red Sea, the water became dry land, so his people could walk over and cross the Red Sea to escape the Egyptians that were chasing them. For earthly things were turned into watery, and the things that before swam in water now went upon the ground. Fire and water. During the plague of hail mixed with fire, the two elements worked together instead of destroying each other. Fire burned fiercely even inside the falling water and hail, for which is to be most wondered at. The fire had more force in the water that quenches all things, for the world fighteth for the righteous. We just read that. Chapter 19, verse 20, the fire had power in the water, forgetting his own virtue, and the water forgot his own quenching nature. When the Israelites traveled the desert, the flames of God's pillar of fire did not melt the crystalline frost-like heavenly manna. On the other side, the flames wasted not the flesh of the corruptible living things, though they walked therein. Neither melted they the icy kind of heavenly meat that was of nature apt to melt. Wisdom of Solomon, 19:21. This was done to teach us that the creation serves its creator for the benefit of his chosen. King Solomon concludes that the whole world was fashioned anew at God's command so that his children would not be harmed. For the whole creature in its proper kind was fashioned again anew, serving the peculiar commandments that were given unto them, that thy children might be kept without hurt. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 19, verse 6. In chapter 7 and 8, wisdom is not just a concept. She's described as a living, breathing force and was right beside the Most High when he made the world. Fashioner of all things, Solomon calls her. King Solomon, forgive me. In chapter 7, verse 22, he testifies on her behalf, for wisdom, which is the worker of all things, taught me. For in her is an understanding spirit, holy, one only, manifold, subtle, lively, clear, undefiled, plain. Why I say plain? Because we make it difficult. It's not hard. Just get rid of pride. It's simple. It's not difficult. We make it difficult because we won't let go of the things that God hates. That's why wisdom can't come to us. It says she's a loving spirit, not subject to hurt, loving the thing that is good, quick, which cannot be letted. It cannot be stopped. Wisdom, you can't stop wisdom. Ready to do good. Kind to man. So if you ain't ready to do good all the time when you are able to, you don't have wisdom. Because that's what she teaches. Kind to man. I don't know them. They ain't my people. That's why you have no wisdom. Steadfast, meaning you stay on it. You're consistent. You're not wishy-washy. Sure, meaning you are standing firm. You're free from care. What that means? Not I don't care, but that means you don't have to. Wisdom don't have to be cautious. Because with wisdom, you're following the right procedure all the time. You don't have to be afraid of the outcome. Having all power, overseeing all things, and going through all understanding, pure and most subtle spirits. If we don't understand the goings of wisdom, then we can't understand from whence cometh sin. If we can't understand that it takes through the performance of the law to obtain wisdom, the humbling of oneself in the spirit to admit when you're wrong, to be humble enough to accept correction, to look at everything as a lesson and a message from God to refine me, even the evil things that happen to me, because I deserve worse. If we're not humble enough, wisdom can't come to us. If we can't understand that these are how you attract her and these are the things that repel her, we don't understand her goings, then we can't understand whence cometh sin. We can't understand when we are following temptation that is pressing upon us and we can't figure out how to resist. We have a problem doing what's right before God because we won't give in to the principles of wisdom, because we won't trust and believe God and show that through our actions. You got to make sacrifices for the law, for crying out loud. And if you ain't making sacrifices, wisdom not coming to you. You got to have a heart for your fellow man, for crying out loud. You see a hungry dog on the street, it don't bother you. You don't want to feed him. And then you might see the dog and you want to feed him, but then you see a hungry man and you say, forget him, man. I don't know him. You're heartless. Wisdom can't come to you. Because she helped design the elements, earth, air, fire, water. She knows exactly how they work. She understands the structure of the world and the activity of the elements. For he had given me certain knowledge of the things that are, namely to know how the world was made and the operation of the elements. Chapter 7. It says wisdom is an unspotted mirror of God's power. She renews all things and orders all things well. You can't go against the principles of wisdom talking about you love God. She's a representative of God. She is a mirror of his power. Because the Most High has given her power to sustain the entire world, and it is preserved by her every second of every day, because it's her, by her, God designed the order of life. He created wisdom first, and in all things, wisdom was done. She can easily reorder it whenever God commands by his will to fulfill his plan. The elements can change themselves because wisdom is already flowing through them continuously. She's more fluid than any motion, so she can reshape physical matter like clay. And when you believe this, then we will act on it. You won't be afraid. You won't care what people think. You don't care how people are going to talk about you. You don't care if somebody that might take advantage of your vulnerability because you chose to humble yourself. You don't care who's going to talk about you because you spoke up and said what was the right thing in God's eyes. You don't care if the world is against you, as long as you stand up for what's right and God got my back. You won't be afraid to wear your frontlet. You won't be afraid to wear your culture. You won't be afraid to stand up for what's right, even amongst your own people when everybody's against you. Because with wisdom, there is no defeat. So why should I fear? What should I doubt? When the people were dying of thirst in the desert, God did not create water out of nothing, though he could have. Instead, he commanded at the appointment of wisdom a hard flint rock to forsake its own natural virtue and pour out a river of water from nothing but the arid, dusty, grainy composition of a stone. To guide the people, wisdom became the means to alter a unique element, inhabiting alongside an angel of God, a shadowy cloud by day to block the scorching desert sun and a flame by night to light up the dark wilderness. This single object, the pillar of cloud and fire, changed its properties to be exactly what the people needed based on the time of day or night. The sum of all these miracles, and I'm about to sum it up right here. The sum of all these miracles is to teach us that all things in nature are completely subject to God's will. The laws of physics, which is just man's title for God's divine ordering of the elements. That's all that is. Don't say, oh, he's going off into science. That's just what man calls the way that God ordered life. The laws of physics. They are not random or independent of God. They are all under God's rule. When God commands them, the elements willingly shift their properties to serve his divine plan. Like strings on a harp, the physical elements remain what they are, but they flex to create a completely new melody or miracle under the hands of the creator who's playing the tune. God alters the elements to match the moral choices of humanity. Let me say that again. God alters the elements to match the moral choices of humanity. For the wicked, the oppressors, the Egyptians, nature became hostile. The river Nile produced plagues of frogs and fire rained down mixed with freezing hail. For the righteous, God's people, the Israelites, the exact same elements became life-giving and protective. A deep sea became a dry land, and the scorching flames refused to burn them. The elements act as mirrors of God's justice, dynamically shifting depending on who or what they encounter. That's why they did not burn up the clothes of Nadab and Abihu, the holy garments of the priests. God is the master musician of the world and all that therein is. He can rearrange the very fabric of our reality at any moment to save those who trust in him. And with that, I hope that everybody is inspired by the words of the Most High, the words of spoken through his prophet Moshe, and the words of wisdom spoken through King Solomon. I hope that we will all be inspired to humble ourselves, to turn from our evil ways, and walk upright before the Most High our God, and fear no one or nothing but him. I bid you in the ancient tongue of our fathers, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
No one landed on the moon. That's right. Hey, look, you know why they can't land on it? Because it's a light. God never told us that it was something you could land on. God never said you could land on a light. It's a light. See, for us, we got to make a light bulb. God ain't got to make a bulb. It's just a light. You can't land on a light. This is where they get it twisted, thinking that it's a rock. It ain't reflecting nothing off of the sun. God said it's a light. That's why I said we must believe what the book says. Stop going by the fictional science doctrine that they taught us in school. If you hear me talk about science, it's just going to be what God said the order of life is that we learn from the book. Because science is just God revealing to man what he did. That's why they found dark matter. And that's why they dubbed it the God particle. He's still, in his mercy, is showing himself to the scientists, hoping that they will believe him. Even though he knows they will never change their ways, just like the Canaanites. Can't say he didn't give them a chance. Anybody have any questions before I close out here? Say shalom.
Shalom.
Your Uncle Abraham says shalom.
I have a question.
Afterwards, okay?
No idea.
What is life? The keeping of the commandments, everlasting life. What is life? Solomon said, "What is life without wine?" Huh? Tell me I can't drink wine. Okay, all right. So
it's 8:30 over there now.
Yeah, no, that's what time it is. Okay, 10 minutes. All right, cool. I'm gonna go back to Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 19, where we left off. I was hitting verses, but I'm gonna go directly there to read a couple more verses because that's a heavy chapter, man. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 19. I mean, the whole book is heavy. You can't deny it, right? Wisdom of Solomon, because there's so much depth to it, and it refers back to Torah. It keeps giving us references of what God did in the wilderness, in the Exodus. Okay, so here it goes. As for the ungodly, wrath came upon them without mercy unto the end, for he knew before what they would do. He knows that they're not going to conform. He knows which one of us are going to conform. How that having given them leave to depart and sent them hastily away, that they would repent and pursue them. God knew that they were going to chase us after. When Pharaoh said, all right, just get out. For whilst they were yet mourning and making lamentation at the graves of the dead, because their firstborn just died, they added another foolish device and pursued them as fugitives whom they had entreated to be gone. They begged us to be gone, and then they chased us as fugitives after, which was a foolish device, God said. For the destiny, or wisdom said, for the destiny whereof they were worthy, drew them unto this end. This is heavy. Because of their past, because of their stout-heartedness against God, because they worshiped the things that he created, instead of, if they were so deep that they could seek after the things that he made in creation, why could they not seek out the creator of them? If they were so entangled with worshiping the power of the creation, how could they not seek out the creator? And so because the destiny whereof they were worthy drew them unto this end. So when we turn away from God, you think it's your mind. Our mind will turn against us, and you will do things against the law to bring punishment upon yourself. We will do things against God to ensure that we reach the punishment. Why? Because we anger God. Why? Because we betrayed God. Why? Because we turned it on God. And listen to this. And he made them forget the things that had already happened. Why we can't remember the things that just happened that I did wrong? Because I'm in denial, because I'm proud. And like I said earlier, God will give us more of the thing that you are. If you're wicked, he gives you more wickedness. They got a saying from the book, wickedness proceeded from the wicked. David said it. David got it from Abraham. Wickedness proceeded from the wicked. And whatever you are, God will give you more of that thing. If you're proud, he give you more pride. If you're stubborn, he give you more stubborn. If you are, if your ways is good before him, if you are humble, he give you wisdom. He give you the thing that you are worthy of. And he made them forget the things that already happened because they were proud, because they were stubborn. Now you can't remember what you did wrong. Now we can't maintain a guilty conscience because we forgot the good that God did for us, and we steady justifying ourselves, and I can't see where I went wrong. That they might fulfill the punishment which was wanting to their torments. Now I get the punishment of how I tormented people. Now I get the punishment of what I did to people. But until I acknowledge what I did and admit it and confess it before God and acknowledge and change my ways and humble myself before him, I'm leading myself to these torments. I'm bringing it upon my own head. That thy people might pass a wonderful way, but they might find a strange death. That thy people, Israel, might find a wonderful way through miracles, but they, the Egyptians, might find a strange death. When the ocean parted to let us through, it crashed upon them, as namely a cloud. And that's also another thing I want to talk about here, because we think we don't have the power that we have. When you live right before God, the world will bend to your will. And if you think I'm lying, I'm flying. Because this is the way that it works. This is the power of Elohim that God gave us. If Joshua thought like that, he would have never tried to stop the sun. If Moses thought like that, when God told him to stretch out his hand with the rod in his hand, he would have been afraid. And when it was come time to make the waters come crashing upon the Egyptians, he would not have. He would have asked God to do it, because he would have said, I'm not worthy. He did it because he believed. If it's not happening in your favor, it's because we do not believe. You don't believe God. That's why we don't believe in ourselves. I don't mean believe in yourself, making yourself an idol, following everything your heart tells you. I mean believe in the power that God gave you, that you are capable. That way we stop making excuses. That way we hold ourselves accountable. That way we are responsible. We stand up as men. You can't force me to do wickedness. Nobody can influence me to do wickedness. If you do the wicked thing to me and I turn around and do it to you, I'm just like you. You didn't make me do it. I chose. Everything is a choice. Every sin is a choice. And that's why there is no sin that will go unpunished. For the whole creature in its proper kind was fashioned again anew, talking about the earth, serving the peculiar commandments that were given unto them, that thy children might be kept without hurt, as namely a cloud shadowing the camp where water stood before, dry land appeared, and out of the Red Sea a way without impediment, and out of the violent stream a green field, wherethrough all the people went that were defended with thy hand, seeing thy marvelous strange wonders. For they went at large like horses and leaped like lambs, praising thee, O Lord, who hadst delivered them. For they were yet mindful of the things that were done while they sojourned in the strange land, how the ground brought forth flies instead of cattle, how the river cast up a multitude of frogs instead of fishes. But afterwards they saw a new generation of fowls, the quails. When being led with their appetite, they asked delicate meats, for quails came up to them from the sea of their contentment, for their contentment, and punishments came upon the sinners, not without former signs by the force of thunders, for they suffered justly according to their own wickedness, insomuch as they used a more hard and hateful behavior towards strangers. Do you hear why God punished the Egyptians? In so much as they used a more hard and hateful behavior towards strangers. Imagine us oppressing strangers. Imagine us hating strangers in a strange land, which is what got us here to begin with. Wake up, Jacob. For the Sodomites did not receive those whom they knew not when they came, but these brought friends into bondage that as well deserved of them. Yeah, we were friends when we came to Egypt. We were the family of Joseph. And not only so, but peradventure some respect shall be had of those, because they use strangers not friendly. The Egyptians, they use strangers not friendly. If it's not a point of how you treat strangers, why is keep being mentioned throughout the book? Oh, you're talking about the strangers that lived amongst us. So you gonna tell me this talking about the strangers that live amongst us also? And not only so, but peradventure some respect shall be had of those, the Egyptians, because they used strangers not friendly. You gonna tell me that's talking about the Israelites and how we treated the strangers that lived amongst us, and that it don't matter before God if they don't serve God, if they're not circumcised? Please, man, stop making excuses to have a heart. But these very grievously afflicted them whom they had received with feastings, and were already made partakers of the same laws with them. Therefore, even with blindness were these stricken. And that's why we can't see the law the same. Because some of us are stout-hearted against having a heart for strangers, against having a heart for mankind, against having a heart like unto God to show mercy to all. If it ain't unconditional, it ain't love. If it ain't to all, it ain't mercy. It's partiality. And therefore, were they stricken with blindness. And that's why we are stricken with blindness. Because we put blinders on our hearts and we restrain ourselves from doing good. So why could he show us more good? Why would he show us more good if we stop ourselves from doing the good that he's already trying to show us? And with that, I hope that everybody is inspired by the words of the Most High and the words of wisdom. And I hope that we will all humble ourselves, turn from our evil ways, and walk upright before the Most High, our God. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Again, if anybody has any questions, and it's too much to put in the chat, I'm putting my email in the chat, and of course I have to spell it out because YouTube won't allow me. But it's simple: zakaria.email.israel@gmail.com. All right, love y'all, man. Ami, my people. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom.